Welcome to IVF This, episode 85, The Power of Yet. Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go. Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you are all doing so well. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite words in the world. And that is the word yet. I know it seems like a weird thing to have that as be one of my top favorite words, but hear me out. Before I get started, I'm going to be offering a lot of thoughts towards the end of this episode. Thoughts that I have felt very empowered with and thoughts that many of my clients have offered and have also felt very empowered by. Now, because of the way our brains work, some of these thoughts might not feel empowering to you. That's completely okay. Some of them might not. Some of them might feel totally neutral. Some of them might feel like beige, like blah. Some of them might make your blood boil. All of it is okay. Thoughts are, again, sentences in your brain. So thoughts hit people differently. There's no good, bad, right, wrong. It's almost like we're just trying out our thoughts, like you try out clothing, like some fit, some don't. There is no drama. Take what works for you and leave or discard what doesn't. All right, so let's talk about one of my favorite books, Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. Dr. Dweck is a PhD psychologist, and the book is this fascinating explanation on what she calls a fixed versus a growth mindset. She also has a fabulous TED Talk on the topic, and I would highly encourage you to find it. Just look up Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, and TED Talk, and voila, it's amazing. Trust me. I'm not going to get super deep into the background of growth versus fixed mindset for the purpose of time. So I would strongly encourage you to check out that YouTube TED Talk or read the book. Either one, both, doesn't matter. Now, I'm not trying to distill down her incredible research and body of work to one thing, but I think if you're going to take one thing from this episode, it is that yet can be one of the most important words to begin incorporating in your everyday life in order to foster a growth mindset. Dr. Dweck believes, as do I, that mindset is one of the most important determinants of life satisfaction, like overall life satisfaction. Notice I said one of. I am not discounting socioeconomic status, intersectionality, race, anything like that. But mindset is one of the most important determinants of overall life satisfaction. A growth mindset means that you believe that your intelligence or talents can be developed over time. This is Dr. Dweck's kind of definition. A fixed mindset believes that you believe that intelligence is fixed. So if you're not good at something, you might believe that you'll never be good at it. A lot of my clients are perfectionists. I've talked a lot about perfectionism and how it can be actually quite crippling for us, and it is a prime example of a fixed mindset. So you're probably thinking to yourself, what the hell does this have to do with infertility and IVF? That's a great question. I believe that how we do one thing is how we do all things, particularly in times of crisis or stress. If we are used to thinking with a fixed mindset like this will never work or something in that vein, then it will only be continued and likely amplified during a stressful period of your life. Hello, infertility, right? A growth mindset is not about forced gratitude, toxic positivity, silver lining BS, things like that. You know that's not what I'm about. But the reason that I wanted to dedicate an entire podcast to this is because a lot of the way we think naturally is very black and white. There's an episode dedicated to this called Black and White Thinking that talks much more about how we came to do this from an evolutionary standpoint. So I'm not going to get into that now. But just to say that black and white thinking is very much a fixed mindset. Anything that can only be one or the other is fixed, right? It's very binary. Having a growth mindset is not necessarily something that just kind of innately comes to people. I mean, it can, but a lot of it is learned through modeling by our close relationships, our parents, family, etc., socialization, culture, all of that. I think in Dr. Dweck's research, she found that like 40-ish% of the population have a growth mindset. In fact, this is probably the most important thing. Her research found that most people have a mix of both growth and fixed mindsets, which means that you probably fit into that category as well. I know I do. While I have worked really hard for several years in order to develop and nurture my growth mindset, it doesn't mean that I never experienced fixed mindset thinking. I am human. You're human. We're all human. In fact, Dr. Dweck has stated that a pure growth mindset does not exist. So I'm just going to let all of you perfectionists off the hook right now. We're going for a mixture. One or the other, all of the other, it doesn't exist, okay? Now, a fixed mindset is not a bad thing. As with all things that we utilize, mindsets, behaviors, etc., there are times when these things serve us and a time when these things do not serve us. We tend to villainize things that we do, decisions that we make, while looking back. That kind of hindsight is 20/20 idea, but it's not necessary. For instance, I have this client who's about to start IVF. She's 42 and would like children with her now husband. She had an unplanned pregnancy when she was 19, and the bio dad was not involved. Now at 19, she took a job at a donut store because she could work as early as 3 a.m. and work until about 8 and get her kid up and dressed for daycare. Then she went to school. She was in, I believe, occupational therapy school or working towards that at the time. And then come home and do all of the things in the afternoon and evening, and then again, do it all over every single day in and day out. One of the things that struck me about her in particular is that she has this kind of very punitive way that she views things in her life, that in a way that she thinks and does things. The simplest example, and I think one that's probably like universally applicable to women, is that she tends to think of exercise as like well, I ate a lot this weekend, so I have to work out. This is many of us. This is how we view exercise because this BS has been perpetuated time and time again by the diet and beauty industries. But that mentality is very punitive. That unconscious or fixed belief system states that exercise is a punishment for eating. This came up for her around her infertility journey, right? Because it was like, oh, well, I waited too long. So IVF is kind of my punishment. Now, that thought was not necessarily that explicit because our brains try to be super covert about the self-loathing, but that's pretty much what came out during our sessions. Now, the reason I told you about the donut shop and everything is that when she was 19 and trying to go to school and support a child, that quote-unquote punishment mentality served her. It got her ass out of bed every morning. It made her bust her tail to get good grades, which earned her scholarships, and she got a great internship and then scholarships for graduate school. That punitive, fixed mentality served her. It didn't feel great, right? Because when does self-loathing ever feel great? But she was able to like white knuckle her way through a really physically, emotionally, and psychologically taxing time in her life. The way we choose, consciously or unconsciously, to get through things is neither good nor bad. It just comes down to what serves us and what doesn't. By the time she got to me, the self-loathing, the punitive voice in her head was very overwhelming to the point that she was kind of paralyzed with indecision and confusion. So she was just caught in this spin cycle of self-loathing because she was no longer to really white knuckle her way through infertility. She got to a place in her life where how she was normally thinking and functioning no longer served her or the vision of how she wanted to be. So there was a lot of stuff that we had to like reframe and unlearn. And the first thing was this idea of perfectionism and understanding the power of yet. Now, I know that I've zeroed in on the word yet, but moving from a fixed mindset to a growth one doesn't mean that every thought that you're going to have or start to think starts or ends with yet. There are a lot of variations of yet. Personally, I think The Power of Yet is just a catchy title, and it's actually the name of a song by Janelle Monáe that was done on Sesame Street a few years ago. So obviously with that revelation, my street cred remains wholly intact. So I wanted to share a few examples of how we reframe a lot of her thinking, and a lot of us have very similar thought patterns and tell ourselves very similar things. Maybe not verbatim, but the overall meaning is definitely similar. So I'm going to offer you some fixed mindset type thoughts and how they can be reframed to include a more growth mindset. Again, not all of these will be applicable for you. That is okay. Take what works, leave what doesn't. So the first one, you might think, I will never get pregnant. So try, I'm doing what I know to do to help get pregnant, whether it's medication, supportive care like acupuncture or things like that, supplements, reading books, talking to doctors, whatever that might be, right? What I want you to notice about this thought is that you are not guaranteeing the outcome of getting pregnant. We can't guarantee that. If you are, then you're trying to control something you have absolutely no control over. What you are doing with that reframe, right? I know I'm doing what I know to do to help to get pregnant, right? You're taking credit for what you're already doing and acknowledging what is and what is not within your control. We want to offer our brains more than just yes, no, right, wrong things. Something else to notice, if you've listened to this episode called the 4 N's, right? The notice, normalize, neutralize, and the next best thought. A lot of the growth mindset examples would fit into that next best thought category. So if you've been working on the 4 N's, which I would highly encourage you to do, or you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back about 6 or 7 episodes and listen to that one. It's called the 4 N's, like the letter N for Nancy. So let's try another. You might think, I keep gaining weight from fertility treatments. So try, I understand that the medication can make me gain weight, and I'm learning how to take care of myself mentally and emotionally so I don't have to reach for food to comfort myself during this time. You might think, I don't know how to give myself injections, or the person giving me injections doesn't know how. So you could try, I can learn. They can learn. There are a ton of resources available to me, from my doctor's office to YouTube, and I or they are fully capable of learning how to do this. You might think, I don't know what I will do if this doesn't work. So try, I know no matter what the outcome is, I can take care of myself. I don't have to blame myself or be mean to myself. I can love myself through this pain or potential pain. You might think, I'm probably going to mess up all the medications, right? Who hasn't thought about that when you're inundated with all of these, like this basic chemistry set? So try, I have the resources to help me figure this out. I am smart and I am careful. If I have questions, I know I can ask my clinic. You might think other people getting pregnant makes me feel bad about myself. I think this one is another one we can all relate to. So try, other people's success doesn't mean anything about me. Pregnancy is not a zero-sum game. I can be happy for them while also taking care of myself during a really tender time. Notice that I didn't take it all the way to other people's success inspires me. Now, if that works for you, that's wonderful. If that makes you feel good, that's wonderful. Use it. If it doesn't, then that's okay too. I don't think hearing or thinking other people's success inspires me would have felt particularly good for me at that time. So I like the more neutral, I'm able to take care of myself during this time. You might think other people have it so easy. I don't know what other people's struggles are. It's none of my business. And the comparison feels terrible. This doesn't feel easy for me right now, and that's okay. Nothing has gone wrong because I'm experiencing this emotion. I'm not doing anything wrong. You might think, if I take a break from IVF, that means I'm quitting. Try this. I am allowed to take breaks to take care of myself. It doesn't mean I'm quitting or walking away or accepting a child-free life. It means that I am able to prioritize myself during this time too, right? In addition to, you are able to prioritize yourself as well as the family that you want to build and grow. You might think the transfer or the cycle failed, therefore I failed. Try this. The process did not work the way we had hoped for, and we didn't get the outcome we'd wanted. This is not a personal failing, even if it feels like one. I am still good, loved, and enough. And so the last one. I have to feel excited or happy or hopeful or grateful or whatever emotion that you're telling yourself that you have to feel. Try this. Excitement, or again, whatever emotion, is one emotion that I will feel during this process. I can be excited and anxious, grateful and angry, happy and sad. 2 or more emotions are possible at the same time. Okay, so I really hope this helped. If you need any help with this or anything that we talked about today, book a mini session. They're completely complimentary and we can do a lot of amazing things in 30 minutes. You can book either through my website, www.ivfthiscoaching.com, and go to work with me, or from the links in my bio on Facebook or Instagram, and my handle is @IVFThisCoaching. So this is what I have for you today, my beautiful friends. Have a wonderful day, week, month, year, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.